Hello everyone and welcome back to Mass Effect. We're going to continue on speaking with the crew with Tali Zora over here. She's the Quarian that we met on the Citadel. She's come with us on a couple of missions and she's good with the Geth. And she's down here in the engine room because the Geth live their lives on aboard spaceships, so she knows a lot about starship engines and things like that. So let's go ahead and talk with Tali and see what she has to say.
Your ship's amazing, Shepard. I've never seen a drive core like this before. I can't believe you were able to fit it into a ship this small. I'm starting to understand why you humans have been so successful. I had no idea Alliance vessels were so advanced.
Well, yeah, thanks. Humans are pretty special. But, this is really an advanced prototype ship. Most of the Alliance vessels are not as sophisticated as the Normandy.
The Normandy's a prototype, cutting-edge technology.
A month ago, I was patching a makeshift fuel line into a converted tug ship in the flotilla. Now, I'm sitting on board one of the most advanced vessels in Citadel space. I have to thank you again for bringing me along. Traveling on a vessel like this is a dream come true for me.
I had no idea you found ship technology so interesting.
It comes with being a Quarian. The migrant fleet is the key to the survival of my people. Ships are our most valuable resource. But we don't have anything like this. We make do with cast-offs and second-hand equipment. We just try to keep them running for as long as we can. Some of the fleet's larger vessels date all the way back to our original flight from
That's
Quebec.
impressive you managed to keep ships flying that long.
I can't believe your fleet's still using ships that are 3 centuries old.
They're constantly being repaired, modified, and refitted. They aren't pretty, but they work, mostly. We've tried to make ourselves as independent as possible on the flotilla, grow our own food, mine, and process our own fuel. But some things we just can't make on our own. A patch to maintain the hull integrity requires raw materials we just don't have. That's why our pilgrimages are so important.
So we get a few options here to ask Tali for more information about the Quarians. Yeah, let's ask her about her pilgrimage. Why she's out away from the flotilla in the first place.
I want to know more about the pilgrimage.
When my people reach maturity, we leave our birth ships and seek acceptance with a new crew. It's necessary to maintain genetic diversity among the fleet. But no ship wants to accept someone who will be a burden on them. So, to prove our worth, we embark on a pilgrimage. We set out alone, leaving the flotilla and our families behind us. We only return once we have found something of value we can bring back to the fleet. This is presented as a gift to the captain of the respective ship we wish to join. If the gift is accepted, we are welcomed into the crew.
Can a captain choose to reject the gift?
That doesn't happen often. Most captains are eager to increase the size of their crew. It increases their own standing in our society. Even when a gift is not particularly valuable, the captain usually accepts it out of a sense of tradition. However, there is a stigma to presenting a substandard gift. It's not the best way to make a good impression on a new community.
I imagine not.
Most pilgrims don't return until they find something worthwhile.
Okay.
I can't believe they just send you off alone.
It's not like they just cast us out. Before we leave, we are given lessons in how to survive outside the flotilla, and given gifts to help us on our journey. We also receive implants to fight off sickness and disease. Generations of living in an isolated and highly controlled environment have left our immune systems weaker than most. By the time we leave the fleet, we are well equipped for the pilgrimage. This is a rite of passage for all Quarians. If it were dangerous, our numbers would suffer. Virtually every pilgrimage ends with a triumphant return and the ritual presentation of the gift to one of the fleet's captains.
Okay, so it seems like it is kind of dangerous, but obviously the Quarians wouldn't want to just send their children out to die. So they do prepare them well, and it gives them a chance to see the rest of the world.
I want to talk about something else.
Like what?
Let's see if Tally can tell us a little bit more about the Quarian people.
Tell me about your people.
Our lives aren't easy. Resources are scarce, and we are constantly on the move. Everything we do must in some way contribute to the continuation of the migrant fleet. There are 17 million Quarians in the flotilla, and each of us relies on the others for survival. The bonds among my people are strong. Unfortunately, we have had to surrender many of the freedoms and civil liberties other species take for granted.
Yeah, I can imagine having to live aboard ships all your life.
What kind of freedoms?
Well, it's illegal for parents to have more than one child. If our population grows too much, it would strain our resources to their breaking point. Of course, we also can't allow our numbers to become too few. If our population is in decline, the rule against single births is temporarily repealed. In extreme cases of population decline, incentives are even offered to encourage multiple births. Though the Conclave hasn't had to take such measures in nearly a century.
Conclave sounds like a ruling body.
That's your government.
The Conclave is our civilian branch of government. Each ship can elect a representative to serve on the Conclave and make decisions that affect the fleet as a whole. On matters that affect an individual ship, however, the captain has the final say. It's a tradition that dates back to the early days, when the fleet was governed by martial law. Fortunately, most captains nowadays are smart enough to have an elected council from their crew to give them advice and guidance.
Okay, so that seems rather, forward-thinking of them. But I guess, if you spend 300 years on a roving band of starships, I guess you can't live under martial law forever.
So the ultimate power rests with elected officials?
In practice, the Conclave and the respective council for each ship tend to set the rules that govern our daily lives. But in theory, we are still under military jurisdiction. The 5 top-ranking military officials in the fleet serve on the Admiralty Board. These 5 have the power to overrule any decision by the Conclave in case of emergency. To do so requires unanimous agreement among the Admiralty, and they can only do this once. After that, the entire board must resign their posts. It's a safeguard that served us well. In nearly 3 centuries, the Admiralty Board has only overruled the Conclave 4 times.
So that gives us a little bit of background on Tally. She's unlike most of the members of our crew. She knows a lot about starships, but she grew up isolated in their little sort of space caravan that's migrating around the stars, and so she hasn't had too much interaction with average Citadel society, I suppose. But she does know a lot about technology and about the Geth in particular. And we'll learn a lot more about her technical expertise as we go forward. That's just a brief introduction to her. There is one other person that we can speak to that's part of our crew. He's not a person that comes with us, like Navigator Presley upstairs, our second in command. But we can speak with Engineer Adams down here, and he can tell us a little bit more about the Normandy itself.
Hey, Commander, you know that Quarian, Tally?
Yeah?
She's been spending all her time down here asking me about our engines.
Okay.
I'll tell her to leave you alone.
What? No, she's amazing. I wish my guys were half as smart as she is. Give her a month on board and she'll know more about our engines than I do. She's got a real knack for technology, that one. I can see why you wanted her to come along.
Yeah, she did seem useful. She has a lot of expertise that most of the crew is lacking.
I figured she'd be a real asset to the team.
You got an eye for talent, Commander, but I'm guessing that's not why you came down here.
No, not exactly. One of the reasons that this ship in particular was picked for Shepard is that the Normandy has an advanced stealth system that allows it to go relatively undetected, get into occupied systems and skirt around enemies and things like that, and it's just perfect for a Spectre. So let's ask Adams a little bit more about how that actually works.
Fill me in on the IES stealth system. How does it work exactly?
You can't hide a ship out in space. They emit too much heat and radiation, too easy for sensors to pick them up, unless you find a way to capture those emissions. So our stealth systems trap the energy we give off in storage sinks built into the ship itself. No emissions to give away our location. Eventually the sinks have to be vented. More than a few hours silent running and they overheat. Cook us inside our own hull.
Oh, great. Well, that would be bad.
There's no way for anyone to detect us?
A visual scan can still pick us up. Anyone looking out a window can see us plain as day. But you have to be pretty close to get an actual visual out in space. Most vessels rely on scanners. As long as the stealth systems are engaged, they can't see us. Not unless we accelerate to FTL speeds.
So this is cool. Again, one of the things I really love about the Mass Effect series is they try really hard to at least make an attempt to ground most of their futuristic tech in real-world science. And so here they're saying, yeah, there's no way to cloak it like on Star Trek. You know, it's not going to be completely invisible, but it does trap all of the emissions that starship scanners rely on. And so it makes it effectively invisible, but not really invisible. But because, and that would never work on a sailing ship because you can see across the sea because the ship isn't going to be that far away from you. But out in space, they could be, hundreds of kilometers away from you, and, there's no way you'd be able to see it against the blackness of space. So this can be pretty effective.
Why doesn't it work with faster-than-light travel?
Cranking up the FTL blue shifts our emissions, pushes them into frequencies too high to capture in the sinks. As soon as we make the jump, it's like setting off a flare. Sensors can pick up our location whenever we enter or exit FTL flight, but for short-range missions, our stealth systems are amazing, and we've got the only one.
And so again, it's they make a point of saying that it's not perfect. This cloak, it's not doesn't make us completely invisible all the time. It can't be run for extended periods of time. It can't be run while we're traveling faster than light, and it doesn't make us visually invisible. So it's useful, but it's not amazing magic stealth system.
I want to know more about the Normandy.
She's the best ship I've ever served on, probably the fastest vessel ever designed, and she's the only one using the new Tantalus drive core.
What's so special about the Tantalus drive core?
Proportionally, it's about twice the size of any other vessel. Not only are we faster, but we can run at FTL speeds longer before we have to discharge the core.
Okay, so one of the things you find out about the technology, if you were reading through all the codex entries and all that, is spaceships in the Mass Effect universe. They all sort of rely on Mass Effect cores to create artificial gravity and to lower the mass of the ship so that they can fly it at faster than light speeds. But in order to make the Mass Effect drive work, you have to run electricity through it, and that builds up a charge in the core. And if you let that run too long without discharging it, without grounding it, then that charge will build up and eventually explode and kill everybody, which would be bad. So every ship, whenever it goes into faster than light speeds, has to eventually drop out, slow down, and discharge the core. And they explain that there's different methods for different size ships. So smaller ships can actually land on a rocky world or even a larger asteroid and discharge the core that way. They can just land and set down a grounding wire and discharge the core, and everything's great. But larger ships, they can't land on a rocky world like that, or they can land, but they'd never be able to take back off again. Medium-sized ships can use the gravity wells of gas giants, they can get close enough to them and still be able to break away. But the biggest ships like the Destiny Ascension that we saw when we first came to the Citadel, that huge ship. It's called they call those dreadnoughts. Those ships, they can't get anywhere near a planet, so they have to have specialized discharging stations that have been set up around most of the mass relays and things, where they can actually go and park and discharge their core, and then go off into the world. But what that means is that they can't really go exploring in a giant dreadnought like that, because they don't have any way to discharge their core if they're too far away from one of these charging stations. And all of these little details just make the world seem so much richer and fuller. And I love it.
Carry on, Adams.
Aye, Commander.
So yeah, I think that's going to do us for today and for our conversations this time around. I think we're going to head back up to the galaxy map and see about finding a couple more places for us to explore. We've got people we need to talk to back on the Citadel, information we need to relay back to them, but we also have a few side missions that we've found out about, some strange anomalies. I think there's a hostage situation we found out about that we can go and investigate. But yeah, there's just a number of places for us to look for. So we'll jump back into that next time and figure out where we want to explore. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you later.